Our next guest covers some of the biggest names on the internet and social media. Join us right now to talk about this and so much more. Mark Mahaney, Evercore ISI, head of internet research. You want to weigh in on the snap of it all?
You just had Google, Amazon, and Meta report accelerating ad revenue growth. That's the real tell. Snap is a second-tier ad platform without a lot of innovation. Lots of innovation on the user side, but they've always been bereft of innovation on the advertiser side, and it's coming back to haunt them. Also, expectations really rose heavily into the print in the wake of Google, in the wake of Meta, and I don't know, I think there was some poor communication on the part of the company, so expectations were high, and they just got smashed.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What's the Middle East thing?
Well, a couple of companies have called out brand advertising softness, but that's back in October, so it's a little bit of an excuse. But it probably was a point or two of headwind for most companies that have exposure to brand advertising. I think that's a legit concern. A lot of companies raised it in October and November. That's largely in the past, though, for most of these companies. They shouldn't be calling it out now as an excuse.
Let's talk big tech. The Magnificent Seven is now the Magnificent Four, Three. What's your list at this point?
Well, let's see. I only look at Google, Meta, and Amazon, but you have to put Microsoft in there and NVIDIA. So there's five. I'm sure I'm missing somebody.
Is Apple out now?
Apple.
I don't know.
Tesla's gone from the list?
If you look at where the premium growth is in the space, like you want companies that'll give you 10 to 20%, like premium growth, 3, 4x the rate of GDP growth. Yeah, it's a much smaller number. Apple's a product cycle company, and it's not showing much growth these days. The other companies, however, I've got all the four of those that I kind of focus on the most. They're all great derivatives off of Gen AI, artificial intelligence.
Is it 4 or 5? Is it 4 or 5? What do we?
I think we just need to make the list, and then what I want you to do is try to differentiate the list.
Is it the fancy 5? Can we call it? Do we need a different fancy 4 or fancy 5?
We'll have to come up with a new acronym. Absolutely.
I like fancy.
Because you are fancy.
I am a fancy.
Of the four, differentiate how you think about who's on the list, who you take off the list.
Well,
and if there was only one on the list, who would it be?
Well, our top pick right now, just to get right to it, is Amazon. And that's because you've only started to see this kind of real turn in the fundamentals. I think in 2024, Amazon's going to give you 3 fundamental catalysts. You're going to have accelerating AWS or cloud revenue growth. You're going to have record high retail operating margins. And you're going to have record high free cash flow margins for the company as a whole. Those are 3 really powerful catalysts, and the stock can still re-rate. The multiple can still catch up a little bit. Most of the other stocks have already gone through their re-rating. Amazon hasn't, so it's got the most juice to the upside.
Who's got the least juice to the upside of your fancy 4?
Probably Google. And the big thing there is cost. The big catalyst across the space has been companies that have shown the ability to really rein in costs. They've had to do reductions in forces, but some of those were very necessary. The one company that really sticks out as not having really bitten down on cost is Google. And if you do that and your revenue growth isn't accelerating dramatically, it's kind of a double negative. And so you just got to, there's a huge opportunity for Google to change all this, but they haven't done it yet.
How much cost are we talking about? How many employees are we talking? What if you were really going in there? If you called up Sundar Pichai and said, we got to cut costs, what would you be doing?
I don't know about the absolute number, but they've got 30,000 people in their ad sales business.
Wow.
It's a lot of people. When you had an environment where people aggressively hired in
30,000 in the ad sales business, and so much of the ad sales itself is automatic. Yeah. Are these engineers?
Oh, it's a mixture of a lot of things, sales and engineers.
Okay.
But I think the bigger point is you saw companies across the board, and Zuckerberg, to his credit, was the big turn. That's when somebody went from its growth at all costs to responsible, profitable growth. He was forced to. Wall Street forced him to do that, but he listened. You don't hear, and you got that reaction from some other, some of the leaders. Spotify was another example.
Google or anybody else to do that at this point. Is that this will only happen when Wall Street insists and
Maybe. I don't know why Google has to wait for Wall Street. There's another great example here. All of the major tech companies are paying a dividend, except for Google, which has got one of the biggest cash balances out there. They've got twice as much cash on their balance sheet as Meta, yet they're not paying a dividend? Really? Like, they should be out paying a dividend. They should be managing their costs much more aggressively. I think if they do that, you could have a real upside in the stock.
Some of the special projects that they've always kind of chased after and done things, but not necessarily AI. I would assume that you want them to continue to fund that.
Yeah, I think investors do. Yeah. Google is more valuable at making bets in things like autonomous vehicles. You just have to right size the bet. That's all.
Here's the meta question. It's not a meta question, but it's a question about meta. Everybody's running around now with these Vision Pro goggles on. I don't want to say everybody, but you go online, you see everybody talking about it. How much does this benefit or not what Meta's done with the Oculus? Meaning, because that product price point is, $500, this other thing is at $3,500. It's still at version 1. When Christmas comes, do all sorts of kids say, Daddy, Daddy, Mommy, Mommy, I want a headset, and the parents say, well, I can't. I'm not getting you the Apple headset because it's just too pricey right now. But I will get you this.
This is
or is that a misnomer?
No, I think you set it up right. We got a proof of concept problem here. It's not convincing to enough people that they need to have one of these devices. The price points have been a lot lower on Oculus for a couple of years, and you just don't see people. You haven't gotten millions and millions of people looking to buy them. So the product needs to improve. And you're probably talking a couple of generations. You can get that. It's like 3 or 4 years. Every generation is going to get better than the last one, right. Cheaper, faster, more apps. So I think there's real opportunity here, but it's going to take 5+ years. What
was your initial reaction when you put those Vision Pro goggles on relative to Meta's goggles?
I just did this yesterday. The graphic display was amazing. Now, whether I really want to put that on to watch video content as opposed to just sitting back and watching it on my screen, with that I don't know. And also, I just think most people are going to use their smartphones unless these Vision Pro or these head-mounted devices have a huge amount of apps associated with them.
Right.
I'm probably just going to stick with my phone. It's very entertaining.